You know, I asked myself, how could a League of Legends champion look like in Paladins? And I'm not talking about the design. I'm talking about the kit and how the talents would look like and the role. Because League of Legends and Paladins are two fundamentally completely different games. And then I was like, okay, so how would Shen from League of Legends look like in Paladins? And then I thought a bit about it, like how his passive would be in Paladins, and the Q, W, E, like, you know, just how the abilities would be in Paladins. And then today it hit me, because I thought a bit about it, and it could work, but it was not perfect. And then I was like, okay, let me just ask AI about this, because I have asked AI to create a Paladins Champion. I have asked AI to give me a talent and a loadout to play for Champion in Paladins. And now I just thought, why not ask AI to transfer a champion from one game to a different game? And that's what I did. And I think it turned out extremely good. Like, I was actually a bit like surprised how well this turned out. So let me just show it to you. I asked, how would Shen's abilities from League of Legends change when he was a Paladins champion? Also, what would his talents be and what would his role be? You know, with Shen it's not so clear what role he would have. Tank or support? It's not that clear. So I was also curious about this. And I got 2 responses, and I'm just going to read the first response because the second response had, like, it was just wrong things it said. So, for example, it said that Shen's Q is key barrier. That ain't true. So I just go down here and say I prefer this response. And we're just going to look at this. And it's actually so incredibly, it's really good. It could totally work in Paladins. It's a bit shield heavy, as you will see later, but still, I think this is a really good concept for Shen in Paladins. So, I got the answer: if Shen from League of Legends were adapted as a Paladins champion in Paladins, his abilities would be reworked to fit the game's mechanics while maintaining his theme of a protective ninja warrior. Below is how he could be reimagined. And it said, role frontline. That makes sense. You could also make Shen a support, because he is also essentially in League a support and also can be tanky, and Shen can be pretty much everything. But it's decided for frontline. With the reasoning behind it was Shen's protective nature makes him a strong frontline, focusing on shielding and mitigating damage rather than pure tanking or aggression. So, the abilities. His primary fire is Spirit Blade Strikes, which is a melee combo, and it is a 3-hit combo with the first and second hit dealing 600 damage, and the third hit, which affects a wider arc or has a wider arc and slows enemies, deals 800 damage. It has a medium attack speed similar to Terminus Wings. Like, even that I found somewhat impressive, that it could say, okay, here's a comparison to an already existing champion in the game. But yeah. And this ability has, or the weapon has a passive effect. Hitting enemies restores a small shield to Shen 50 per hit. And at first I was like, okay, maybe 600 plus 600 plus 800, these are 2k damage in like a single combo, which would be quite a lot. But then I thought, like, okay, that's a lot, yes, but if you go further down and see the rest of his abilities, it isn't even that much. So yes, it is a lot, but considering Shen is, you know, not the fastest, like he's not so mobile besides his dash, you know, I think hitting a Maeve 3 times in a row and basically killing her with one combo isn't really going to happen, so it's not that bad. Maybe it's still a bit too much, but yeah, I mean, it's only a concept. So let's go on. His alternate fire is Twilight Barrier, so his W essentially. Shen channels his energy, forming a barrier that absorbs 1.5k damage over 3 seconds. While active, allies behind the barrier take 30% reduced damage. Enemies who hit the barrier are marked, allowing his Spirit Blade to deal bonus damage to them. Inspired by Shen's W in LoL, but turned into an active barrier like Fernando's shield. So this is a thing which, also when we go down later, which I don't really understand. So do I just get a self shield like Torvald? Do I place a shield in front of me like Barrick? Or is it just that, like, it mentions nowhere it mentions something about his Spirit Blade? So it's not like I can, or you could control the Spirit Blade freely around the map, and then you place it there, press right click, and then it has this, like, the Spirit Blade effect from League. So I don't really understand that point, but let's just see it in a way that he gets a self shield like Torvald, but it's just a bit bigger than, only a small self shield, so that allies can benefit from the effect that they take less damage if they stand behind Shen when he uses a shield. Also, when I read the last point with enemies who hit the barrier are marked, allowing his Spirit Blade to deal bonus damage, reminded me of Moji with her magic barrier, or magic shield it is now, and like that effect from before. And also 1.5k shield for 3 seconds. Is this a lot? It's certainly, like, this number is certainly not small, but we actually don't know how much HP Shen in Paladins would have according to this concept. So maybe this is a lot, maybe it's not that much. We don't know. And also 3 seconds. If there's a Drogos buying Wrecker, then he can, like, one-shot this shield. So it always really depends who shoots you, if 1.5k is a lot or not. So let's go on. The first ability, which would in Paladins be is the Q button, is Spirit Dash. Shen dashes forward, dealing 500 damage and taunting enemies hit for 1 second, forcing them to attack him. So this is just his E from League. When he uses his Spirit Dash, he passes through shields and CC immune targets. So he can't taunt CC immune targets, that makes sense. And the Spirit Blade follows the dash, dealing extra 300 damage to enemies hit. 8 second cooldown. A mix of his E in LoL and S shoulder bash. This is also one thing which I found interesting. Like, you have to... The reason why I find this so surprising is because I asked AI a couple of times to create or give me loadouts to play for a certain champion. And the thing about this is that pretty much always give me the right name for loadout cards, but the effects that these cards have in game are completely wrong when they give it to me. So, for example, they say Shen has a card called Malice, which increases his reload speed by 10% per level, and it would say something like Malice level 4, increase your movement speed by 40%, which is just not true. But here the answer actually knows, like, what the ability of Ashe is, and that it is in a certain way definitely similar to Shen's E. So this is what I just found surprising. And and what I was a bit confused by is the point, the Spirit Blade follows the dash, dealing extra 300 damage to enemies hit. But nowhere before it was mentioned that Shen can, like, control his Spirit Blade like in League. It's mentioned nowhere. So I don't know if you just basically carry it behind you on your back like in League, and then you basically grab it and then you put it back on your back. So I don't know, but this would make this ability deal 300 damage. I mean 800. But from the pure effect of this ability, this could completely work in Paladins. There is no taunt effect in Paladins, but this could completely work, I believe. One thing which is not mentioned here is, would he be able to hit multiple enemies with it, so he can pass through the enemies like in League, or is it truly like Ash Shoulder Bash, so that Ash Shoulder Bash can only hit one enemy and she doesn't pass through the enemy, she just hits the enemy and the enemy flies back, and she doesn't pass through the enemy. This is not mentioned here, but yeah, anyway, this ability could completely work, I believe. The second ability in Paladins on the F button would be Shadow Refuge, and the points for this ability are Shen channels for 1.5 seconds, giving himself and allies in a 20 unit radius a 750 HP shield for 3 seconds. While shielded, allies have 25% increased movement speed. The ability can be cast while moving but slows Shen by 30% and has a 12-second cooldown. A mix of Shen's passive and ultimate, made into a group-wide defensive skill. So I don't think that this is like Shen's like in a certain way. Shen's passive is that if he uses an ability after like the passive cooldown, you just get a shield. And in a certain way it is like his passive, but also not really, and also only in a certain way like his ult, because the ult is just like it's completely different. But that's why I said in the beginning this entire kit is very shield heavy, and so one thing I would do is switch the Spirit Dash and the Shadow Refuge, because movement abilities in Paladins are almost always on F and not Q, but let's just ignore that. And in general, I mean, the question is, do the allies get the shield only after 1.5 seconds, or does it build up during the 1.5 seconds and then last for 3 seconds? And also 20 unit radius is ridiculously small, so I think you would have to make this radius a bit bigger. But other than that, I think this ability could also work like that. In a certain way, this concept is like Torvald, but completely different. But so I think this could work like that. Radius is a bit small, but it's okay. And also there's a penalty with this ability, with the movement speed penalty by 30%, which I think is not too bad, because like he has a lot of shields he can give, so having a penalty somewhere is not that horrible. Okay, let's go to the ultimate, and how could it be otherwise? It's Stand United. The names are obviously also the same. And Shen selects an ally anywhere on the map and channels for 2.5 seconds before teleporting to them. The targeted ally gets a 2000 HP shield for 4 seconds. Upon arrival, Shen knocks back enemies within a 15 unit radius, dealing 800 damage and slowing them by 40% for 2 seconds. This is essentially Shen's iconic R from LoL, but with a bit of knockback impact upon landing. And since Paladins doesn't have a minimap like League or anything similar, the way this could be implemented is take Talos ult, but make it so that you can hit teammates with it instead of enemies. So press E, you start channeling and like selecting your ally, and then you just travel to the ally the same way Talos travels to an enemy when he ults. And the 2000 HP shield is also appropriate, I think. Like, it is certainly pretty strong, but then again, it's an ult. And Rec exists. And also what I thought when I read this the first time, upon arrival, Shen knocks back enemies and deals 800 damage. I was like, okay, I think this took some inspiration from Talos ult, because Talos also knocks back the enemy he ults, and I believe he also deals 800 damage. I don't think there's a slowing effect, but I think this implementation or this version of the ult could work really well in Paladins. Really strong shield, global ult, like the same it is in League. So I'm a fan of I'm a fan of that. But yeah, as I said before, it's very shield heavy. 3 abilities can give shield. And yeah, but for that, in exchange, he doesn't really deal that much damage. So he's, as I said, he's Torvald, but completely different. Like, both are tanks which are pretty, like, support heavy. You know, take a look at Barrick. He just locks on the point, and like Torvald can't do something like this. And like Shen in this case would be pretty similar. I believe he would be a extremely good supportive tank like Torvald is. So yeah, I'm somewhat of a fan of this concept. Okay, let's take a look at the 3 talents. The first talent is called Guardian Spirit, a defensive talent. And the description is: Twilight Barrier now absorbs 2.5k damage and lasts 4 seconds, but slows Shen by 20% while active. So Twilight Barrier is his all fire. So it is the damage is increased by 1k, and the duration is increased by 1 second. But he has a 20% slow while he has it active. So yeah, even more shield. Okay, the aggressive talent, I like how it labeled it for defensive, aggressive, and supportive. I don't know. Second talent is Way of the Blade. Spirit Dash now applies a wound effect, 50% reduced healing for 2 seconds, and the Spirit Blade's damage is increased by 200. So one thing about that, the reduced healing duration would be reduced to 1.5 seconds just to make it in line with Cauterize. But yeah, this would be strong early game, but also only really early game because you hit 50% Cauterize pretty quickly. But yeah, you deal even more damage if you hit your Spirit Dash. So you deal 800 damage with the dash, then 800 with the first hit, then 800 with the second one, and 1k with the third one. So you can definitely kill enemies with that damage. And the last talent, the supportive talent, would be Shadow's Embrace. Shadow Refuge now grants affected allies 20% lifesteal while shielded. So Shadow Refuge is the second ability with the shield in a radius, like the shield for primarily his teammates. So they also already have 25% increased movement speed, and now they get 20% lifesteal on top. Turn Shen into a more support heavy frontline. Yeah, so these are the talents, and then there's a finishing sentence or a description of playstyle. Shen would play like a hybrid of Atlas, Fernando, and Ruckus, offering strong defensive tools, an engaging dash, and a game-changing ultimate. His shield-heavy kit makes him a true protector, but his melee attacks and taunt give him some offensive presence as well. Would you change anything about his abilities or role? So, yeah, the AI is aware of the fact that it is very shield-heavy, but I have a question. How is this similar to Atlas? Like, where? I can kind of see where it is similar to Fernando, because Fernando has a ult which protects himself and teammates, and he has a large shield, and enemies can hide behind the shield. So I can see it with Fernando kinda, and they're both close range. And I don't know where it's similar to Ruckus. But yeah, anyway. So that's about it. That's the Shen concept from League to Paladins from ChatGPT. And I really like this entire redesign or reimagination of this character into a different game, because I think it actually fits quite well into Paladins. Like, this is something you wouldn't see it in that way in Paladins because it's too shield heavy, I believe, but it is something which could still, like, with some tweaks, could be in Paladins. So I'm a fan of this entire thing. I think this is the best thing I've ever seen of ChatGPT regarding Paladins characters or kit changes and that stuff. So I'm very happy with that. And yeah, maybe I'll do something like this again in the future. If you would like to see something like this, then let me know. And yeah, write your thoughts about this in the comments if you want. And then I'll see you in the next video.